Hey gang, Carl White here. I'm your hostess with the Moses for the next little bit here. You're listening to Loan Officer Freedom, #1 podcast in the world today for loan officers, where our job is to make your job better for you and your personal life. So we're all about lifting you up as a loan officer and guiding you through the jungle. And Steve, it's a jungle right now.
It is. Yeah.
Right. And we all need somebody leading the front with that machete, hacking down the leaves, getting rid of all the clutter so that we
Yeah.
can get to our destination
Oh,
yet
yeah.
even faster. And that's what we're all about here. So Mr. Steve Kiles, what are we talking about today, man?
Hey, brother. Well, we thank you so much for our community and listeners for giving us great suggestions for podcast topics. We had one come in, and Carl, what a great topic. Someone was telling us, they said, "Hey, I'm finding myself having to choose work over spending time with my family." Now, Carl, that's a real thing, man. I remember what is 2.5 years ago now when you and I met. That's a real thing. You know, it's like you all of this. Hey, this is a work year. We're pushing the demands. I'm having a prospect and then do my sales fulfillment. And there's just, it's either my family or work. How do I navigate this? And Carl, there's no one better than you to talk to us about it, man. What are your thoughts? And I love because you talk about this at the 2-day boot camp as well, man. It's a real thing.
Well, it's a real thing because I was what's the word? I hate to use the word victim. I was the recipient of the consequences of this.
Yeah.
So I think I've shared here more than once that my father worked all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And it affected me.
Mm.
And it affects me. So here he's been, and he was a wonderful man, very wise man. I'm very grateful. Hell, he gave me life. Right. So I'm forever grateful. He married a wonderful woman who's my mother. They stayed married their whole life, until he died. And I'm very grateful. But I had consequences from him working all the time.
Mm.
Right. And he didn't know what he was doing. Like, because I'm 1,000% convinced, had he known how he was affecting me, that I'd have much rather had dad play ball with me than to have the extra chrome on the car. Like, we didn't get the Ford Falcon. We got the Ford Falcon LSX, so to speak,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just making that up, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And so part of my life's mission is to bring awareness to us, to our the people that allow us into their cars or driving to work or walking around with their pets right now, or maybe walking around with their kid. They're listening to this, right? Is to bring awareness of the consequences this happens, and it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's totally 100% not necessary. Because the first thing I started, and I fell into this trap myself, and I just thank God, literally, I thank God for giving me an awakening that I was repeating the process.
Yeah.
And the good Lord, in my belief system, the good Lord said, Carl, you can break the chain.
Yeah.
Carl, you can break this chain. That this chain does not have to continue. And so I'm grateful that my kids were young enough; they don't remember it, right? But I do. But I remember it. And I remember when I thought, okay, I'm going to break this chain. All it really takes, it's not a hard thing to do. All it really takes is figuring out what really moves the needle for us. What's that very small set of activities that moves the needle? Do more of those and less of everything else. And, a couple things comes to mind there. Like, we've all heard the 80-20 thing, and that's a real thing, right? That's not a theory. That's been proven scientifically over and over and over and over. And that 20% of our activity, 20% of our relationships are responsible for 80% of our results. And which 80% of our problems are caused from 20% of the people, right?
Yeah.
But let's take the money part. So 80-20. So 20% of my activity is responsible for 80% of my income. Well, one of the things we talk about in the boot camp, if I just figure out, not if, when I figure out what is that 20% that gives me 80%, if I eliminated the 80% that only gives me 20%, And the 20% that gives me 80%. So let's talk in dollars. 20% of my activity, and let's say somebody's making or let's just use an easy number, $100,000.
Yep.
And we want you increments of 100. So if you're 500,000, just 5 times this. So if I'm when $100,000 of my income is based on 20% of my activity. So if I stop doing 80% of my activity, I'm still making 80,000 of my dollars.
Yes.
So my 20% of activity is responsible for 80,000 of my dollars. So when I figure out what that 20% is and do that activity again in the day, in other words, 20% of my day is an hour and 43 minutes of an 8-hour day. So when I find out what that 20% is, and I don't do it for an hour and 43, I do it for an hour 43 twice, which still, if I remember right, something like around 12:30. Yeah. So if I start at 9 o'clock, by 12:30, I can do my 20% twice. And now I make 80,000 plus 80,000, because one of the 20% of activity is responsible for 80,000 of my dollars.
Yep.
And then if I do that exact same activity again today, for an hour and 43 minutes, I get another $80,000. So now I'm making $160,000 working 40% of the day.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing, right? Because look, we were just talking with Mara Lee.
Yeah.
So Mara Lee closed, how many units did she close this month?
This 11 units.
11. So she closed 11 units this month. Now, Mara Lee didn't work any more hours than the person that closed 2 loans.
That's right.
Or 1 loan, or for those people that's, just ramping up. And we've all been there. Hell, she was there in January.
Yep.
Right. So in January,
she did
and
0.
She was the one that says this. She was struggling, right? Yeah,
she did
struggling.
0,
cool lady.
4, and then 5. Yep.
Yeah. Next month she closed 4. The next month 5, and this month
and then 11.
11.
Yeah.
Very, very rapid rise. And so, but she didn't work any more hours than when she closed 4.
Correct.
Right. It's just, she found this is the activity that moves my needle. Did that more, did everything else. We all think it's about doing a million different things. It's not. It's about doing 1 or 2 things really, really, really often. Right. And we can stop doing that million things. One thing that came up today, I love Sarah Cox, man. Sarah Cox is just, she's really got it going on. That is one smart lady. I learned a lot from her. So we were talking today on Breakfast Club.
Yep.
So we do a thing every morning called Loan Officer Breakfast Club. Is where we have hundreds and hundreds of loan officers all across the nation for free. Join us on a Zoom meeting first thing in the morning. Just go to loanofficerbreakfastclub.com and you're in. It's just that simple. Really cool, really cool group. And they'll put you in a Facebook group. But it's all good. It's all cool. It's all free. Anyway, so Kristen over here on our team, fantastic, super smart lady, one of our strategists, asked a great question. Hey, when we get a deal, do we write a letter to the seller of that property trying to get their loan too? And I was all prepared with this brilliant answer.
Yeah.
Don't send a letter, freaking call them.
Yeah.
Right. Just pick up the phone and call them. How do I get their number? I don't know. Google them. You got an address, you know their name. Hell, Google them, look them up in Facebook. People have their phone number. If you do contact information in Facebook, if they don't have it unlisted, there's your phone number, right? Which I just found out the other day. I was wondering, why are all these people calling me? And come to find out, my phone number was on my Facebook profile, right? So anyway, so I was all prepared with, hey, if you call these sellers, we would app 30% of them and would close half of those.
Yeah.
Before I had a chance to share that brilliant information that I had of how, if you just pick up the phone and call them, they convert actually not so bad. She brought up the statement, the time and energy looking up the seller and trying to send a letter. And what would I say if I spent that same time doing what I did to get that loan in the first place, where I've now got a seller? What was the activity that brought that loan in? And for her, it was contacting real estate agents.
Qualified.
And she said, instead of doing agents that are closing 8 buyer sides and more, reaching out to them
Right.
and
Yep.
connecting with them and getting referrals from them.
What
Nice
a
and simple,
wise,
right?
wise answer.
Yeah.
That's
And so instead of adding yet another thing to her to-do list, yet
Yeah.
another thing that would cause anxiety,
Yeah.
she says, screw that. That does not convert as well. So does it work? I would
Yes.
say, oh, heck yeah, it works, because I would close 15% of them. But she's right. It took a lot of energy. And if I spent that same energy going after yet another qualified real estate agent, I don't get one deal. I get that agent's next 20 deals.
Mhm.
It's a better, now, did the one-off thing that I was wanting to do, did it work? It does. Does it work as well as the one thing that brought in my last 10 loans? It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, why would you print $5 bills when you can print $100 bills using the same paper, the same amount of ink, and the same amount of time? Why print $5 bills instead of $100 bills? So the people that are torn with, I'm working all the time, it's because, and I was too, is because we were printing $5 bills. Don't print $5 bills, print $100 bills. Find out what is that activity that is your best use of your time, and do that. And all these widgets that they're wanting you to do, and hey, here's yet another thing and yet another thing. You don't need those yet another things. You just need like like what we have, Steve, is what we call a 4-part simple plan.
That's it.
Just a 4-part. There's 4 activities you do. If you do these 4 activities, everything else is unnecessary. And so it really, it's more effective. So we close more loans in less time. It's less anxiety. It's less moving pieces. It's less things to screw up. It's less team members needed to make all the moving pieces work. I don't need all these extra people, because I'm doing 4 things and I'm doing a whole lot. So if I'm finding myself to choose over work over spending time with family, and I've been there too, and it's not your fault, right? Nobody ever told us this stuff.
That's right.
Nobody ever told us this stuff. So it wasn't my fault when I was doing it. I'm working on, I hate to say the wrong activity, but I'm not working on the correct activity that you need to be working on, like the 4-part simple plan or some version of it. It's the best plan that we found.
Yeah.
And to work on that and do only that. And suddenly I find myself working a 32-hour work week, making more money than I've ever made in my life, which is exactly what I do. And that's the issue.
Yeah,
and it's a real issue.
It is
It's
a real issue. Hey, and Carl, even as you're saying that, I'm sitting here thinking, how many of our community right now listening say, but Carl, I'm getting pulled into the back end of files. Like here's the challenge is I start the day off well, and then I get an email or a text saying, man, your file's blowing up, and now I've got crisis I'm running to. That's what's causing me to have to work so many hours, because by the time I put out the fires, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I get home at 7, and it's a wash, rinse, repeat kind of a thing. What do I do there?
Well, you fire yourself from being the processor's assistant.
Oh, talk about that.
That's what you do.
Yeah, talk about it.
So if I'm doing the processor's job, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And likely it's not my processor's fault. Likely I taught him or I taught her that I'm his or her assistant, and that's the way it's always been. But I didn't know. Now you know. That's their job. Don't disrespect them, and do their job. I remember walking into so many moons ago, Miss Wonderful Diane, who still I'm honored to work with today, was my processor.
Yeah.
And I remember going in there one day, and I was telling her how to do her job, right? Which she knew far better than me, just FYI.
Yeah.
Right. You already knew that. I'm just saying, in case our listeners had any doubt whatsoever, she was far better at that than I. But I'm in there. Well, here's what you need to do, Diane, because now I feel important. I got a big S on my chest. I'm here to save the day. Right. And she said, who's going to do my job, me or you? And if you want to do it, you are welcome to it. But if you're going to pay me to do the job, then this is my job. I'll do it. And she said it. I could hear the frustration in her voice. Right.
Yeah.
And she was 100% right. And we did a reboot that day. Right. Or let me rephrase that. I did a reboot, and she rebooted me that this is how this works here. And this is my job. Don't disrespect me. Right.
So
now, if I had a processor, and I've had this too, if I had a processor that didn't know how to handle a situation, then I've chosen the wrong processor to be working with. Right. Because how it worked in my shop, never did I go tell Diane, hey, go do this because this will work and you didn't know how to do this. Like I would go in there and say, well, go do this and go do that. And she goes, I already did. Oh, okay. Well, okay then. Well done.
You had
And
the right
I'm not trying to
person.
be a jerk. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm being disrespectful.
Yeah,
You know, it'd be, you know what? It'd be like, you know, I think in pictures, and I just got a picture in my head. So it's going to sound disrespectful to Diane, but it's not. But it'd be like if your kids were in there making breakfast for you,
yeah,
and you see that they're not doing it quite right, and frankly, the eggs are going to be a little rubbery because they got the heat a little high, and the pancakes going to be a little lumpy because they're not mixing it like they should. We would never go in there and say, here, honey, let me take the spatula. Let me take this over. I'll go ahead and cook. That would break their spirit,
yeah.
right? They're trying to help you. And so even though I meant well by trying to go in, it's disrespectful.
Mm,
It's like, I don't trust you to do a good job,
yeah,
which was not true, right? Which is not true.
yeah.
And so instead of taking over, let them make breakfast,
Mm,
right? And frankly, even if I can't ever think of an example, but even if Diane was to stub her toe on something, that's how you learn. That's how I learned.
yeah.
Brother, I almost have no toes left. I stubbed them so much, right? And so, and I'm not
Yeah,
saying Diane's a kid and she's making, I'm not, it's just a picture that came in my head
sure.
of showing you would never even think of doing that. Well,
Yeah.
don't do the same thing when somebody's trying to help you.
Mhm.
Like if you got a neighbor coming over to help you with your mower,
Yeah.
don't shoo them away. Like let them do their thing,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, that's
Hey, and
so the
well, let me add one thing because this helped me a lot too. Because in the last 2 years, we talked about this a few weeks ago. It's probably one of the biggest gifts you've given me is the ability to have a start time and an end time. And so on the practical side, when you're looking at your calendar, look at your calendar and map it out for what matches with your family. And so you determine what that calendar looks like, do a definitive start time, definitive go home and be with family time. And then just don't let anything get in the way. And you say, well, Steve, I can't do it. I promise you, if you'll do a start time, end time, you will find a way to squeeze in what matters most into that calendar. You know, half the challenge is we wake up and just attack the day as it comes to us versus planning the week, the month, the year. Heck, one of our members, our Freedom Club members, has already booked out his 5 vacations for the year. You think it matters what comes up? It goes back to when you put it on the calendar, it takes precedent. You find a way to get it done.
Absolutely. And you know, here's the rule of that. Like on my calendar, like today, it's 4:00.
Yep.
4:00, I'm done, right?
Yep.
Brother, at 4:00, I'm done. You go, well, wait a minute, I didn't finish this small pile of paperwork sitting here beside my of things that I need to do. Well, then it has to go on tomorrow. Well, no, it can't. No, it has to.
Yeah,
So
there's
just
no
like
option.
just
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like I can't put 25 hours in the day. It's not available. After 4 is not available. So this is what I tell myself. All right, self, you better be a little bit more efficient tomorrow
To get it
because you
done.
got some stuff tomorrow and now you got part of today's on tomorrow. What did you waste your time on today? Or what did you spend your time on today that wasn't the highest and best use of your time? And that stuff has to come off because at 4:00, I'm going home. And if I keep rolling it over, you know, I've just got this colossal mess. And so to not have that and to not have the anxiety, I need to start axing off. Like in Sarah, what Sarah's saying, that even though I would close 15% of those deals, I closed 25% of realtor referrals, almost double. Better use of time.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not telling anybody not to connect with the seller, right? Frankly, I think it's a great idea. But I think
as your team grows, so that brings up that great point. As your team grows, they can help you focus on some of the less converting items that can be a part of your process. But when you have a smaller team, it's even more important that you're focused on what moves the needle.
Yeah. Great
huge.
stuff. So great conversation.
Love it.
We're
Good
not
stuff.
making light of the situation. It's a great one. And frankly, my hat's off to you for bringing to attention to yourself of, hey, self, I need to work on this.
Yes.
And so whether you're a mom or a dad, hey, my hat's off to you. You're asking the right questions, and I'm sure that you'll take this in the spirit that it's meant, which is to help you work on your high quality stuff, get rid of all the little clutter things, all the whistles and bells and silver bullets, magic beans, the 37 steps that involve, Pythagorean's theorem, and I have to funnel this and funnel is just unnecessary. Work on a simple, easy 4-part simple plan. Hey, if you'd like us to map out that 4-part simple plan for you, it's the exact same plan that we mapped out for Mary Lee, who went from closing 4 to now, what was that number again, Steve?
11
months. For the month.
11,
Impressive,
11.
right? Impressive.
In
We'll show
just
you the
90
exact same
days.
plan that
Yep.
we'll show you the exact same plan that we mapped out for her. And now, am I saying you're going to get 11 closings in 90 days? I don't know you. I don't know. But I do know that without the information, it won't happen. So we'd love to give the information and love to see. I'd love to hear back from you how it worked for you. There's no charge for this call whatsoever. If you just go to freedomclubdemo.com, Freedom Club Demo, like a demonstration, demo.com, freedomclubdemo.com. We will map you out the 4-part simple plan for you to execute in your business, and it requires no purchase to get the entire plan. And you're welcome to work that plan all alone by yourself. You'll have all the tools and information available to do that. If you want to help us to work with you on an ongoing basis, we can certainly talk about that. But this is not a sales call. It's a call just to help the industry out right now, because God knows the industry needs some help right now, and would love to be part of that solution. So freedomclubdemo.com. Steve, as always, I appreciate you, my brother, and our listeners. Thank you so much. We appreciate you forwarding this to your loan officers that you see that might be working more hours than what they want to. Sometimes we have issues in our life and don't even know it. And our good friends let us know when we have broccoli stuck in between our teeth. That's a good friend. So be a good friend. Forward this to your favorite loan officer friend, and we'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.